The transmission came at dawn, shattering the quiet stillness of Earth's skies. A voice, resonant and alien, echoed across every screen and device. Children of Earth, the Zenithar call upon you to fulfill the debt sworn eons ago. The time has come. Humanity had always known this day would arrive. It was etched into their history like a scar they could not forget. Centuries earlier, when Earth teetered on the brink of extinction, ravaged by ecological collapse and internal strife, the Zenithar had appeared. Towering beings of sleek, bioluminescent forms, they had offered salvation, technology to cleanse the poisoned oceans, machines to stabilize the climate, and knowledge to extend human life. The price? A vague promise. When summoned, Earth would repay its debt. For generations, the promise had been dismissed as folklore, a tale to keep humanity humble. But as the Zenithar's ominous ships descended, vast and shimmering with otherworldly light, the truth could no longer be ignored. Earth's leaders convened in panic. In the sprawling halls of the United World Council, an air of desperation thickened with every passing moment. Ilara Voss, Earth's chief envoy to interstellar affairs, sat amidst the cacophony, her fingers pressed against her temple. She had long dreaded this day. Known for her sharp intellect and unyielding resolve, Ilara was the first to rise above the clamor. "We need answers," she said, her voice cutting through the din. "Stalling won't protect us. We must engage them." Her words ignited a flurry of debate. Some leaders demanded resistance, their voices laced with bravado. Others argued for immediate compliance, fearing the Zenithar's wrath. But Ilara's instincts told her that neither option would suffice. The Zenithar were not conquerors, they were something far more calculating. As the council argued, a new message from the Zenithar illuminated every screen. The alien envoy appeared, a being of translucent, flowing energy that pulsed with an unearthly rhythm. Its form seemed to shift with every word it spoke. "Your debt is not measured in wealth or material. We require your essence, the core of what makes you human. Deliver it, or face eradication." The room fell silent. Ilara's mind raced. What could they mean by essence? Before she could speak, General Cale Thorne, a towering figure with a voice like rolling thunder, slammed his fist on the table. "This is an ultimatum. We should strike first, show them we're not defenseless." Ilara turned to him, her voice calm but firm. "And what will we strike with, General? Their ships are centuries ahead of our technology. A show of force will only hasten our destruction." Cale scowled but said nothing. Ilara continued, "We need to understand what they want. If we can't decipher their intent, we're bargaining in the dark." Her gaze swept the room, finding reluctant nods of agreement. Moments later, she was aboard a diplomatic vessel, heading toward the Zenithar flagship. The ship loomed like a dark star, its surface alive with swirling patterns of energy. As her shuttle docked, Ilara felt the weight of humanity's fate pressing down on her. Inside, the Zenithar's chamber was a vast expanse of light and shadow, its walls pulsating as though alive. The alien envoy greeted her, its form shifting to mirror her silhouette. "Ilara Voss," it said, its voice both melodic and dissonant. "You embody the resilience of your kind. Perhaps you will understand." "Help me understand," Ilara replied, masking her fear with determination. "What do you mean by essence?" The envoy's light dimmed, as if contemplating her question. "Your species is unique. Your capacity for creativity, your unrelenting drive, your defiance against the impossible, these are the traits we require. They sustain us." Ilara's breath caught. "You're asking us to surrender our humanity." "Not surrender. Without it, we wither. Your debt ensures balance." Ilara's mind churned with possibilities. If the Zenithar needed humanity's essence to survive, then Earth held more power than they realized. But how could she leverage this without provoking annihilation? "What if we refuse?" she asked, testing the boundaries. The envoy's form flickered. "Refusal is destruction. Compliance ensures survival." Returning to Earth, Ilara presented the council with her findings. The room erupted once more, factions forming rapidly. Some argued that sharing humanity's essence, whatever that entailed, was a small price for survival. Others, like General Thorne, believed any compliance would render humanity subservient forever. Ilara stood at the center of the storm, her voice unwavering. "We have one chance to negotiate. The Zenithar need us as much as we need them. If we can show them that humanity's essence is tied to our freedom, perhaps we can find a way to fulfill the debt without losing ourselves." The council reluctantly agreed, and plans for the next engagement began. Ilara knew the path ahead was perilous. The Zenithar were powerful, but they were not invincible. Humanity's greatest strength had always been its ability to adapt, to rise when pushed to the brink. As she prepared for the next meeting with the Zenithar, Ilara felt the weight of billions of lives on her shoulders. Failure was not an option. Humanity's survival, and its soul, depended on her ability to navigate the treacherous waters ahead. Above, the Zenithar fleet shimmered, a constant reminder of the fragile balance between hope and annihilation. Below, Earth braced itself for a reckoning centuries in the making. The debt was real, and its payment would change the galaxy forever. They called it the Eternity Rift, a shimmering tear in the fabric of space that hovered above the city like a frozen thunderstorm, its edges crackling with iridescent light. No one knew how it had come to exist, only that its appearance had heralded the arrival of the Vorthan, an alien force whose motives were as enigmatic as the rift itself. In the 2 years since their descent, humanity had been pushed to the brink, clawing for survival in the ruins of their former world. Aaron Soares crouched in the shadows of a collapsed skyscraper, his breathing shallow. The stench of burnt metal and scorched earth filled his lungs. He adjusted his grip on the salvaged plasma rifle, its barrel glowing faintly in the dim light. Beside him, Kira Tanaka whispered, "They're close. You feel it?" He nodded, his gaze fixed on the distant patrol of Vorthan sentinels. Their sleek, insectoid frames moved with an unnatural grace, each step accompanied by a low hum that resonated in Aaron's bones. They had come to collect something, though what it was remained unclear. Humanity's defiance had grown desperate, yet Aaron and Kira were among the few willing to fight back, to push against the tide threatening to drown them all. "We can't let them reach the power core," Kira said, her voice taut with urgency. "If they get it, the resistance is finished." Aaron's jaw tightened. He'd heard those words before, spoken by countless others who'd fallen to the Vorthan's relentless onslaught. He glanced at Kira, her sharp features illuminated by the faint glow of the rift. She had the look of someone who'd seen too much and lost more, yet her resolve remained unshaken. It was that resolve that kept him going. "We'll stop them," he said, more to himself than to her. They moved silently through the wreckage, their steps calculated and deliberate. The city was a graveyard, its once bustling streets now littered with debris and ash. Above them, the rift pulsed, casting shifting shadows that seemed to mock their every move. Aaron's mind raced as they closed the distance to the Vorthan patrol. The sentinels were too many to take head-on. They'd need to outthink them, strike where it hurt most. As they neared their target, a faint sound reached Aaron's ears, a soft, rhythmic clicking that sent a chill down his spine. He motioned for Kira to stop, his eyes scanning the darkness. The clicking grew louder, more insistent, until a figure emerged from the shadows. "I'd hoped you'd make it this far," said the man, his voice smooth and unhurried. He wore a tattered coat that might have once been military issue, its edges singed and frayed. His left arm was encased in a sleek, metallic brace that hummed faintly with energy. A stranger, yet something about him felt unsettlingly familiar. "Who are you?" Kira demanded, her weapon trained on the newcomer. The man smiled, his expression equal parts amusement and menace. "Names aren't important. What matters is that you're in over your heads. If you're here to help, we'll take it," Aaron said cautiously, though he kept his finger hovering near the trigger. "Help." The man's laugh was cold. "I'm here to make sure you don't ruin everything." Before Aaron could respond, the air around them shimmered. A low vibration coursed through the ground, growing stronger with each passing second. The sentinels had sensed them. "Move!" Kira shouted, breaking into a sprint. Aaron followed, his heart pounding. Behind them, the stranger remained still, his silhouette swallowed by the encroaching light of the sentinels. For a moment, Aaron thought he saw the man raise his hand as if commanding the rift itself, but the image was gone as quickly as it had appeared. They ducked into a narrow alley, the walls pressing in on either side. Aaron could hear the sentinels closing in, their hums escalating to a fever pitch. He glanced back to see Kira retrieving a small device from her pack, a detonator linked to a series of charges they'd planted earlier. "This'll slow them down," she said, her voice strained. Aaron hesitated. "And us?" Kira's eyes met his, fierce and unwavering. "We'll figure it out. We always do." The explosion rocked the alleyway, a deafening roar that sent debris cascading around them. Aaron shielded his face as the shockwave knocked him to the ground. When the dust settled, he looked up to see Kira extending a hand toward him. "You okay?" she asked, pulling him to his feet. He nodded, though his legs felt unsteady. "What about them?" Kira's expression darkened. "Not gone. Just delayed." As they emerged from the alley, the city stretched out before them, an endless maze of ruin and despair. The rift loomed above, its light flickering like a dying star. Aaron felt a pang of doubt gnawing at his resolve. Yet amidst the chaos, a strange certainty took root within him. "This isn't the end," he said quietly, more to himself than to Kira. She glanced at him, her lips curving into a faint smile. "Oh, it's just the beginning." The vibrations began subtly, a faint tremor that rippled through the desolate streets of Epsilon Station. At first, it was easy to dismiss as the routine workings of the city's decaying infrastructure. But as the tremors deepened, growing in intensity, a hush fell over the crowded bazaar. Merchants clutched at their wares, and children were pulled close by nervous parents. Something was coming. Captain Lysandra Vex pushed her way through the gathering crowd, her polished boots echoing sharply against the metal floor. Her ice-blue eyes swept the scene, searching for any sign of the cause. Years of command had honed her instincts, and they screamed at her now. This was no ordinary disturbance. The air itself felt charged, humming with an unspoken threat. "Captain," called a voice from behind her. She turned to see Lieutenant Grail approaching, his brow furrowed and sweat glistening on his temple. He carried a handheld scanner, its screen flickering with erratic data. Seismic activity off the charts. Origin point is directly below the station. Lysandra's jaw tightened. "The old mining tunnels?" "Yes, ma'am. But there's more." Grail hesitated, his voice dropping. "The readings aren't natural. There's an energy signature, one I've only seen in Vorthan tech." The name sent a ripple of unease through Lysandra. The Vorthan had been quiet for months, their presence a looming shadow that never quite dissipated. If they had resurfaced here, in the heart of humanity's last foothold, it meant trouble far worse than seismic tremors. "Gather the team," she ordered. "We're heading down." Minutes later, Lysandra stood at the edge of a yawning elevator shaft, her team assembled behind her. Each wore reinforced armor marked with the insignia of the interstellar resistance, their faces a mix of determination and trepidation. Among them was Ensign Rhea Marlowe, the youngest member of the squad and a prodigy in tech engineering. Her gloved fingers danced nervously over the controls of her wrist-mounted interface. "Are we sure this is a good idea?" Rhea asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "No," Lysandra replied bluntly. "But it's necessary." The elevator's descent was slow, its mechanisms groaning under the weight of years without maintenance. The deeper they went, the darker and colder the air became. Lysandra's thoughts raced. What could the Vorthan possibly want down here? Resources? Information? Or was this another calculated move in their war of attrition? When the elevator jolted to a halt, the team stepped cautiously into the cavern below. The tunnel stretched endlessly in both directions, its walls lined with long-abandoned mining equipment. A faint, pulsating glow emanated from deeper within, casting eerie shadows that danced with each tremor. "Stay close," Lysandra instructed, her voice firm but calm. She led the way, her pulse rifle raised and ready. The glow grew brighter with every step, accompanied by a low-frequency hum that seemed to reverberate in their bones. They reached the source of the disturbance, a vast, spherical structure embedded in the rock. It pulsed with an otherworldly light, its surface covered in intricate patterns that shifted and flowed like liquid metal. The sight stole the breath from Lysandra's lungs. This was no mining relic. This was Vorthen. What the hell is that? Grail muttered, his scanner beeping erratically. Some kind of conduit, Rhea said, stepping closer despite the weight of their unease. Her interface lit up with streams of data. It's alive. A network hub, maybe. But it's drawing power from the station's core. If it overloads, she trailed off, her meaning clear. Suggestions? Lysandra asked, her eyes never leaving the pulsating structure. We disable it, Rhea said, determination hardening her voice. But it won't be easy. The energy levels are off the charts, and I can almost guarantee it's protected by some kind of failsafe. Before anyone could respond, the structure emitted a sudden, piercing tone. The hum intensified, and from its surface emerged a series of mechanical appendages, sleek and sharp, like the talons of a predator. The sphere began to shift, its patterns accelerating into chaotic swirls. Contact! Grail shouted, raising his weapon. The first appendage lashed out, striking with the speed of a lightning bolt. Lysandra rolled to the side, her rifle blazing in response. The team scattered, their movements precise and practiced. Rhea ducked behind a rock, her fingers flying across her interface as she searched for a way to counter the sphere's defenses. I need time, she called out, panic creeping into her tone. Then buy it. Lysandra snapped, unloading another burst of plasma fire. The appendages moved with unnerving intelligence, targeting the team's weakest points. Grail was knocked off his feet, his armor sparking as he hit the ground. Lysandra fired again, drawing the sphere's attention. Got it? Rhea shouted suddenly. She slammed her palm onto the interface, and the sphere's glow flickered. The appendages froze mid-strike, the hum dying into silence. For a moment, all was still. Then the ground beneath them shook violently. Cracks spiderwebbed across the cavern floor, and the sphere began to collapse inward, its light imploding into a singular point. Lysandra grabbed Rhea's arm, dragging her toward the elevator as the tunnel threatened to cave in. Move, she bellowed, her voice cutting through the chaos. They reached the elevator just as the cavern collapsed entirely, the sphere's energy vanishing into nothingness. As the elevator ascended, Lysandra looked at her team. Exhausted, battered, but alive. This isn't over, she said, her voice grim. The Vorthen don't leave loose ends. Rhea met her gaze, fear and resolve mingling in her eyes. Then neither will we.